The grand chamber of the Galactic Council Station floated in the darkness of space, its crystalline walls reflecting the light of 1,000 distant stars. Inside, representatives from 47 alien species sat in their designated seats, arranged in a perfect circle around the central platform. The air hummed with translation devices, converting countless languages into coherent speech. At the center of it all stood Ambassador Jiwoo, her dark eyes scanning the faces of beings who had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. She wore the simple gray uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps, a stark contrast to the elaborate robes and biomechanical suits surrounding her. Her hands trembled slightly, but she kept them clasped behind her back where no one could see. This was humanity's first appearance before the full council, and everything depended on the next few hours. The Valkyrian High Chancellor rose from his seat, his 6 limbs moving with fluid grace. His species had conquered 17 star systems before humanity had even invented the wheel. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of absolute authority. We have reviewed the human petition for full membership in the Galactic Council. The decision is unanimous. Your request is denied. Jiwoo felt her stomach drop, but she maintained her composure.
May I ask why, Chancellor?
Earth has met every requirement outlined in the membership protocols. Requirements written for civilized species. A Thalmec representative interrupted, its crystalline form pulsing with disdain. Your species discovered faster than light travel only 50 years ago. You stumbled upon quantum jumping through blind luck and reckless experimentation. 3 of your test ships vanished before you succeeded. Another voice joined in. This one belonging to a floating gas form species whose name humans couldn't pronounce. Your planetary history shows continuous warfare. In the last 1,000 years alone, you have engaged in over 500 major conflicts. You still maintain weapons capable of destroying your own world. Jiwoo stepped forward. We acknowledge our past, but we've learned from it. Earth has been unified for 73 years. We haven't had a major conflict since silence. The Chancellor's command cut through the chamber like a blade. The Council has not finished speaking. He activated a holographic display and images of Earth filled the space above them. Cities burning, armies clashing, nuclear explosions blooming like deadly flowers. This is what you are. Primitives who learned to fly between stars before learning to live in peace. The hologram shifted, showing humanity's colonies. Mars with its 3 million inhabitants, the mining stations around Jupiter's moons, the research outposts in the Kuiper Belt. You have spread your violence across your solar system. You call them colonies. We call them staging grounds for future aggression. Jiwoo's jaw tightened. We came here seeking partnership, not judgment. Then you will receive our judgment, the Chancellor replied. The Council has decided that humanity requires guidance. You will surrender administrative control of Mars, Europa, Ganymede, and all installations beyond your moon's orbit. A Council peacekeeping force will occupy these territories to ensure compliance. The words hit Jiwoo like physical blows. You're demanding we give up 40% of our territory? That's not guidance, that's conquest. Call it what you wish, the Thalmec representative said coldly. You have 1 Earth month to comply. If you refuse, the Council will implement corrective measures. We have done this for 37 species before you. All are better for it. Jiwoo looked around the chamber, searching for any sign of support. She found none. Some species avoided her gaze. Others watched with curiosity, as if observing an experiment. The Council had already decided humanity's fate before she ever arrived. We need time to discuss this with our government, she said carefully. You have your time, 1 month. The Chancellor waved a limb dismissively. This session is concluded. Back on Earth in a bunker 300 meters beneath Geneva, the United Earth government convened an emergency session. President Kim sat at the head of the table, her face pale as she reviewed the Council's demands. Around her, the military and civilian leadership of humanity argued in heated voices. This is extortion, Defense Minister Tae Yang slammed his fist on the table. They wait until we make contact, then demand we surrender our colonies or face invasion. We can't fight them, the Secretary of Resources said quietly. Their combined fleet has thousands of ships. We have 200 vessels, most of them converted cargo haulers with weapons bolted on. Commander Daeho stood near the wall, his scarred face impassive. He had fought in the Mars colonial wars 20 years ago, back when Earth's factions still fought each other. His right arm was cybernetic, replaced after a reactor explosion. He cleared his throat and the room fell silent. "Permission to speak, Madam President?" "Granted, Commander." Deho stepped forward and placed a data chip on the table. "For the past 40 years, the Deep Space Research Division has been developing weapons and technologies in classified facilities. The Council thinks we're primitive because they've only seen what we wanted them to see." President Kim picked up the chip. "What are you suggesting?" "That we show them what happens when you threaten humanity's home." Dr. Hyjin entered the room carrying a sealed case. She was the head of Earth's Orbital Defense Laboratory, and her clearance level was higher than most people in the bunker. She set the case on the table and opened it, revealing holographic projections of weapons that made even the hardened military officers lean back in their seats. "Relativistic kinetic weapons," she explained, pointing to one projection. "Antimatter cascade devices, quantum entanglement disruptors. We've had the theories for decades. We just needed a reason to build them." "These weapons," the president said slowly, "they could destroy entire fleets?" "They could destroy entire planets," Hyejin replied flatly. "We built them hoping we'd never need them. It appears we were wrong." Ambassador Jiwoo appeared on the screen from the council station, her secure transmission delayed by light speed limitations. "Madam President, I must advise acceptance. The Council has crushed every species that defied them. They have weapons we can't imagine, resources we can't match." President Kim looked at the faces around the table. She saw fear, anger, and determination in equal measure. She thought about the 3 million people living on Mars, the families on Ganymede Station, the children born in space who had never set foot on Earth. "Commander Deho," she said finally, "begin preparations for Operation Retaliation. Dr. Hyjin, authorize production of all classified weapon systems. Minister Taeyang, mobilize the home fleet and recall all military personnel from leave." "And the Council's ultimatum?" Jiwoo asked from the screen. President Kim's expression hardened. "Send them our response." One word: no. The chamber fell silent. Everyone understood what that word meant. It meant war. It meant going against an enemy that had ruled the galaxy for millennia. It meant humanity would either stand as a free species or fall fighting. Across the solar system, alarms began to sound. On Mars, Colonel Bitna gathered her fighter squadron. On Ganymede, engineers began fortifying the station's defenses. Captain Sungmin's stealth ship, the Silent Thunder, slipped out of lunar orbit and vanished into the darkness between worlds. And in the Council station, when Ambassador Jiwoo delivered Earth's response, she watched the Chancellor's face twist with rage and disbelief. No species had ever refused the Council's demands. "Not in 800 years? Then you have chosen extinction," the Chancellor said. Jiwoo met his gaze without flinching. "We've chosen freedom. If you want to take it, come and try." The war for humanity's survival had begun. The alien fleet assembled at the edge of the solar system like a storm gathering on the horizon. 300 warships from 7 different species, their hulls gleaming in the distant sunlight. Admiral Krethnos commanded from his flagship, a vessel 3 kilometers long that had broken sieges on a dozen worlds. He studied the holographic display showing humanity's pathetic defenses and allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The humans had 47 military vessels scattered across their system. Most were converted cargo ships with primitive fusion drives and basic energy shields. The largest human warship was barely 500 meters long. Krethnos had fought species far more advanced, and all had eventually knelt before the Council's might. He opened a broadcast channel. "Humans of Earth, this is Admiral Krethnos of the Galactic Council Enforcement Fleet. You have refused our generous offer of protection. You have one final chance to surrender. Respond within 1 hour or face the consequences." Silence answered him for 59 minutes. Then a voice crackled through the communication system, young and defiant. "This is Captain Sungmin of the Earth Defense Force. We have a response for you, Admiral." A pause. "No," Krethnos felt his anger rise. "Then you will learn the price of defiance. All ships advance. Target the outer colonies first. Show them what happens when primitives challenge their betters." The fleet moved forward, engines burning bright. Their first target was Ganymede Station, a mining facility built into the frozen surface of Jupiter's largest moon. Intelligence reports said 15,000 humans lived there, extracting rare minerals from the ice. It would be a simple operation. Occupy the station, take hostages, force Earth to surrender. Colonel Tae Yang watched the approaching fleet from the station's command center. He was 40 years old, with gray streaking his black hair and scars crossing his hands from a lifetime of combat training. He had spent the last 3 weeks preparing for this moment, turning the mining station into a fortress. All personnel to battle stations, he announced calmly. Remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for. The alien ships entered orbit and launched their assault craft. Hundreds of armored soldiers descended toward the station's airlocks. They expected frightened miners with mining lasers and desperate courage. What they found was hell. The first airlock opened and alien soldiers poured through, their weapons raised. The corridor ahead appeared empty. They advanced cautiously, scanning for life signs. Then the walls exploded. Hidden charges detonated, turning the corridor into a death trap of shrapnel and flame. The survivors fell back only to find the airlock sealed behind them. Colonel Tae Yang had turned every corridor into a kill zone. Every junction held hidden weapons. Every room could be sealed and vented to space. The humans knew their station better than any scanner could map, and they used that knowledge with brutal efficiency. In one section, alien soldiers encountered human marines in close combat. The humans fought with a ferocity that shocked their opponents. When weapons jammed, they used knives. When knives broke, they used their hands. One Marine, Sergeant Chan-ho, held a corridor alone for 17 minutes against 20 attackers. When reinforcements finally reached him, he was still standing, surrounded by enemy bodies. The battle for Ganymede Station lasted 6 hours. The aliens won, but at a terrible cost. They lost 30% of their assault force, taking a single mining facility. Admiral Krethnos reviewed the casualty reports with growing unease. No species had ever resisted this fiercely. They fight like animals, one of his officers reported. No regard for their own safety. Some of them detonated explosives even when it meant their own death. Krethnos dismissed the report. They are desperate and untrained. Continue the advance. The Mars colonies are next. But the humans had other plans. Lieutenant Bitna led her fighter squadron on a series of hit-and-run attacks against the fleet's supply ships. Human fighters were small and fast, difficult to target with weapons designed for larger vessels. They struck from unexpected angles, fired their missiles, and vanished before the aliens could respond effectively. One attack went wrong when Bitna's wingman took critical damage. Instead of ejecting, he aimed his crippled fighter at an alien cruiser and accelerated to full speed. The impact destroyed his fighter and crippled the cruiser's engine section. Other human pilots saw this and understood. When their ships were damaged beyond repair, some chose to become weapons themselves. The aliens began calling them Death Wishers or the Madlings. They couldn't understand a species willing to sacrifice themselves so readily. In their cultures, surrender was acceptable when victory became impossible. But humans seemed to have no surrender reflex. Captain Sung Min's stealth ship, the Silent Thunder, operated behind the alien lines like a ghost. The aliens didn't know Earth had stealth technology because humans had never revealed it. Sung Min used this advantage to sabotage communication relays, plant false intelligence, and identify weak points in the enemy formation. His crew worked in shifts, sleeping in their stations, eating ration bars while monitoring alien transmissions. They learned the enemy's protocols, cracked their encryption codes, and fed false information into their networks. 3 alien ships collided in the darkness because Sung Min had changed their navigation data. A supply convoy went to the wrong coordinates and drifted helplessly until rescue arrived. The fleet reached Mars orbit 2 weeks after the invasion began. The Red Planet had 3 million colonists spread across dozens of settlements. Admiral Krethnos prepared for another ground assault, expecting harder resistance but eventual victory. Then Earth revealed its first secret weapon. Dr. Hai Jin had spent 40 years developing theoretical weapons that existed only in classified files. One of them was the relativistic kinetic kill vehicle. The concept was simple but devastating. Take an asteroid, accelerate it to 70% of light speed using a quantum drive, and release it toward your target. At that velocity, even a small mass carried unimaginable kinetic energy. The aliens detected 3 objects moving toward their fleet at impossible speeds. Their point defense systems tried to intercept, but nothing could stop objects moving that fast. The first projectile struck a Valkyrian battlecruiser amidships. The ship didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist, transformed into a cloud of superheated plasma that expanded outward in a perfect sphere. The second and third projectiles destroyed 2 more capital ships within seconds. The alien fleet's shields meant nothing against pure kinetic energy delivered at relativistic speeds. Admiral Krethnos stared at his displays in shock. The humans had just demonstrated weapons technology that rivaled the Council's most advanced systems. All ships, evasive maneuvers, he ordered, his voice shaking. Maintain formation and prepare defensive screens. But the damage was done. 3 of his largest ships were gone, along with 5,000 crew members. The fleet that had entered the solar system with absolute confidence now hesitated. The primitives had teeth. On Mars, Commander Deho watched the enemy fleet through his command center's displays. He allowed himself a small smile. The aliens had expected easy prey. Instead, they had found predators who refused to die quietly. Prepare the second wave, he ordered. Let's show them what else we've been hiding. Around Mars, hidden weapons platforms came online. Humanity had spent 50 years preparing for the possibility of alien contact. Not all of those preparations had been peaceful. The platforms began launching missiles, not at the alien ships but around them, creating a minefield of nuclear warheads programmed to detonate at specific times. The alien fleet found itself trapped in a 3-dimensional maze of potential explosions. Every movement risked triggering multiple detonations. Every moment spent in orbit increased their danger. Admiral Krethnos realized his mistake. He had expected to face a primitive species with basic weapons. Instead, he faced humans who fought with cunning, creativity, and an absolute refusal to accept defeat. Signal all ships, he said quietly. Fall back to safe distance. We need to rethink our approach. As the alien fleet withdrew, leaving their dead drifting in Mars orbit, a message was sent back to the Galactic Council. It contained casualty reports, tactical analysis, and a simple warning. The humans are not what we expected. The Council, sitting in their grand chamber trillions of miles away, read the reports and felt something they hadn't experienced in centuries. Doubt. Perhaps these primitives were more dangerous than anyone had believed. The Galactic Council refused to accept defeat. Their pride wouldn't allow it. For 800 years, they had ruled without challenge. To retreat now would show weakness to every species under their control. 3 days after Admiral Krethnos withdrew from Mars, reinforcements arrived. 600 warships now assembled at the edge of human space, double the original invasion force. In the deep bunker beneath Geneva, Earth's leadership gathered around a holographic display showing the massive alien fleet. President Kim looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes from weeks without proper sleep. Around her, military commanders and scientists reviewed their options. None looked promising. Commander Deho stood and activated a presentation. Operation Retaliation, he announced. We can't win a defensive war. They have too many ships, too many resources. Our only chance is to hit them so hard they lose the will to fight. That's insane, the Secretary of Resources protested. We're outnumbered 3-1 even with our hidden fleet. I'm talking about survival, Deho replied coldly. The Council won't stop until we surrender or die. I prefer neither option. He changed the display, showing targeting data for key alien positions. We have weapons they don't expect. We have tactics they've never encountered. Most importantly, we have nothing left to lose. Ambassador Jiwoo appeared on the screen from the Council station, where she remained as Earth's diplomatic presence. Commander, I must protest. One more attempt at negotiation could buy us what, Ambassador? Another week? Another month? Deho's voice was respectful but firm. The Council made their position clear. They want us subjugated. I say we teach them the cost of pushing humans too far. President Kim studied the faces around the table. She saw fear, yes, but also determination. These were people who understood they stood at a crossroads in human history. Surrender meant slow extinction as a species. Fighting meant possible annihilation. But at least they would die free. Operation Retaliation is approved, she said quietly. Show them what humanity can do when we stop playing by their rules. Admiral Kyung-soo commanded Earth's home fleet from the battleship Indomitable. At 55 years old, he was the most experienced naval commander humanity had ever produced. He had spent his entire career preparing for war against alien invaders, studying historical battles, developing tactics for fighting superior forces. Now his fleet moved toward Jupiter to engage an enemy that outnumbered them 10-1. His ships were new, built in secret shipyards hidden beyond Neptune over the past 30 years. They incorporated captured alien technology and human innovations that pushed the boundaries of physics. All ships battle formation, he ordered. Remember, we're not here to win through firepower. We're here to make them bleed for every meter of space they take. The alien fleet advanced to meet them, confident in their overwhelming numerical advantage. The battle began with conventional weapons. Missiles and energy beams crossed the darkness between fleets. Human ships took heavy damage, their shields overloading under sustained fire, but they didn't break formation. They didn't retreat. Instead, they employed tactics no civilized species would consider. Human ships released nuclear mines disguised as debris, which detonated when alien vessels passed too close. They broadcast false distress signals, and when alien ships stopped to investigate, computer viruses infected their systems through the communication channels. One human destroyer, its engines destroyed and hull breached, aimed itself at an alien carrier and activated its remaining thrusters. The crew evacuated in the final seconds, and the ship slammed into the carrier at full acceleration. Both vessels were destroyed, but the destroyer's crew escaped while thousands of aliens died. The aliens began to realize they weren't fighting a conventional battle. These humans fought like cornered animals, using every trick, every desperate tactic, every advantage, no matter how small. Then Dr. Young Mi activated her quantum entanglement weapon from a hidden station on Europa. She was 39 years old and had spent her entire adult life studying quantum physics. Her weapon was elegant in its simplicity. Every alien ship used quantum communication arrays for instantaneous communication across vast distances. Young Mai had found a way to weaponize quantum entanglement itself. When she activated the device, every alien ship using quantum communications experienced catastrophic system failures. Navigation computers crashed. Targeting systems went offline. Life support fluctuated wildly. Some ships lost gravity. Others lost atmosphere containment. The carefully coordinated alien fleet dissolved into chaos as 100 vessels went dark simultaneously. Admiral Kyung-soo didn't waste the opportunity. All ships concentrate fire on disabled targets. Make every shot count. While the space battle raged, Major Jae-hwan led a special forces team on a desperate mission to Titan, where the aliens had established a fuel depot to supply their fleet. His team of 37 soldiers infiltrated using captured alien transport, wearing stolen uniforms and speaking basic alien languages they had learned from prisoners. The security was tight, but humans had one advantage the aliens never expected. Jae-hwan's team didn't care about escape plans. They weren't interested in sabotage that would let them slip away quietly. They were willing to die if it meant destroying that fuel depot. They placed antimatter charges throughout the facility's storage tanks, enough explosives to turn the entire complex into a miniature sun. When security finally discovered them, Jae-hwan's team fought a desperate last stand. Only 12 soldiers made it back to their extraction point, but they succeeded in detonating the charges. The explosion was visible from Mars. Titan's atmosphere lit up with a flash that briefly outshone Jupiter itself. 50 alien ships docked at the facility were destroyed instantly. Hundreds more were left stranded without fuel, drifting uselessly while the battle continued. But the turning point came when Dr. Haijin deployed the antimatter cascade device. It was her most terrible creation, a weapon that violated several laws of physics that humanity thought were inviolable. A small probe approached the densest concentration of alien ships, moving slowly enough to avoid detection as just another piece of debris. When it reached the optimal position, it detonated. The explosion didn't just destroy matter. It created a temporary rupture in space-time itself, a microscopic black hole that lasted only seconds but caused catastrophic damage. The artificial gravity fluctuation crushed 70 alien vessels like tin cans. Some imploded, some were torn apart by tidal forces, some simply ceased to exist as the laws of physics temporarily failed in their location. The surviving alien commanders stared at their displays in horror. They had lost over 400 ships in less than 3 weeks of fighting. Entire species navies had been wiped out. The Thalmec Dominion, which hadn't lost a major battle in 2,000 years, had just watched 15 of their capital ships destroyed by weapons they couldn't understand. Admiral Krethnos, his flagship damaged and his crew demoralized, made a decision that would have been unthinkable a month ago. All ships retreat to the rally point. We need to regroup and reassess. The alien fleet broke formation and fled. They left their dead behind, along with disabled ships and shattered pride. The mighty Galactic Council fleet, which had never known defeat, ran from a species they had dismissed as primitive children. On Earth, in command centers and military bases across the planet, humans watched their displays in stunned silence. They had survived. Against impossible odds, outnumbered and outgunned, they had driven back an enemy that ruled the galaxy. But Commander Daeho knew better than to celebrate. This was just the first round, he told President Kim. They'll be back, next time with different tactics, better preparation. We bought ourselves time, nothing more. Then we used that time to prepare, the president replied. She looked at the casualty reports, the long lists of names, the brave souls who had given everything so humanity could remain free. We've shown them we won't surrender. Now we show them we can win. Captain Sungmin's voice came through the communication system from the Silent Thunder. I'm tracking the retreating fleet. They're heading back to the council station, probably to report and request additional forces. Follow them, Daeho ordered. I want to know everything. Ship counts, supply lines, communication protocols. If they're going to come at us again, I want to know when and how. In the council station, the chamber filled with angry voices as the retreating admirals made their reports. Species that had never known military defeat demanded explanations. How could primitives with basic technology destroy ships that had conquered 100 worlds? The Valkyrian chancellor listened to the reports, his multiple eyes narrowing. These humans, he said slowly, they don't fight like civilized beings. They fight like beasts. They sacrifice themselves without hesitation. They use weapons that should be forbidden. They show no honor, no restraint. They fight to survive. Ambassador Jiwoo's voice cut through the chamber. She had been silent until now, listening to the aliens discuss humanity as if they were studying an interesting insect. You threatened their home. You demanded their surrender. What did you expect? Polite resistance? The chancellor turned his gaze to her. We expected them to accept the council's wisdom. Every species does eventually. The Galactic Council chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives from 47 species shouted at each other in a dozen languages, their translation devices struggling to keep up. For the first time in 800 years, the Council had lost a major military campaign. Some demanded total war, unleashing planet-killer weapons and turning Earth into molten rock. Others urged caution, fearing what else humans might have hidden. Admiral Krethno stood at the center of the chamber, his uniform scorched from his damaged flagship's fires. He delivered his report with a steady voice, but everyone could see the fear in his eyes. The humans adapted during combat. They studied our weapons in real time, reverse-engineered our technology, and deployed countermeasures within days. Some of their soldiers learned our languages from captured troops in less than a week. A Thalmic elder rose, its crystalline body pulsing with anger. Impossible. It takes years to learn our language properly. I have recordings, Krethnos replied, displaying footage of human soldiers speaking basic Thalmic while interrogating prisoners. They are not like other species. Their learning capacity is abnormal. Their aggression is beyond calculation. They don't fight for territory or resources. They fight because we threaten their home. The Chancellor silenced the chamber with a gesture. Then we will show them that defiance has consequences. Assemble a new fleet. Triple the size of the last one. We will crush them completely. But before the order could be given, every display in the chamber activated simultaneously. Ambassador Jiwoo appeared, broadcasting from her quarters in the station. Behind her stood Commander Daeho, his scarred face grim. Members of the Galactic Council, she began. What you just witnessed was humanity defending itself. Now let me show you what happens when we stop defending and start attacking. The displays showed footage that made several council members recoil, human ships striking 3 council-controlled systems simultaneously. Battles fought with a ferocity that seemed impossible. The footage came from the past week, operations carried out while the council debated their next move. Intelligence Director Dong Min had orchestrated the broadcasts perfectly. He was 52 years old and had spent 30 years in covert operations. He knew how to wage psychological warfare better than anyone alive. He released footage of human soldiers storming alien facilities, mixed with exaggerated reports of experimental weapons that didn't actually exist yet. One video showed Sergeant Chan Ho leading a squad through a Valkyrian weapons facility. The sergeant had become famous during the defense of Ganymede. and now he was the face of human ground forces. The aliens watched him fight with a combination of advanced weaponry and brutal close-quarters combat that looked almost primal. When his rifle jammed, he used his combat knife. When that broke, he used his hands. Dongmin also leaked information about a consciousness transfer weapon, claiming humans could convert captured aliens into mindless drones. It was complete fiction, but the Council didn't know that. He showed videos of affected aliens who were actually human actors in prosthetics, stumbling around with blank expressions. The psychological campaign worked. Minor species under Council control began questioning whether they wanted to be part of an organization that started wars with species like humans. 12 species secretly contacted Earth, offering intelligence and supplies in exchange for protection if they tried to leave the Council. Meanwhile, Fleet Admiral So Hyun led Earth's main counteroffensive. She was 48 years old and had never commanded anything larger than a destroyer before the war. Now she led a fleet of 150 warships toward Council space, targeting not random systems but critical supply hubs that Captain Sungmin's intelligence had identified. Her ships emerged from quantum jumps in 3 different systems simultaneously, striking with perfect coordination. These weren't the defensive battles of the past month. These were planned assaults, executed with precision that the Council had thought beyond human capability. In the Valkyrian system of Kelthar, So Hyun's forces destroyed a major shipyard complex. The attack lasted 4 hours, and when it was over, 3 orbital construction platforms were reduced to debris. More importantly, 12 ships under construction were destroyed before completion. The Valkyrians had just lost a year's worth of production capacity. In the Thalmec supply depot at Secondary Outpost 7, human Marines boarded the station and captured it intact. Colonel Bitna, promoted after her fighter squadron's heroic actions, led the assault personally. Her forces fought through the station level by level, showing no mercy to armed defenders but scrupulously avoiding civilian casualties. When they secured the command center, they transmitted footage of their victory throughout the galaxy. The message was clear. Humans could not only defend themselves but could strike deep into Council territory and win. The third target was a logistics hub in neutral space, a massive station where civilian ships from dozens of species stopped for repairs and supplies. So Hyun's forces didn't attack the station itself. Instead, they blockaded it, preventing any Council military vessels from approaching. Civilian ships were allowed to pass freely, but military convoys were turned back or destroyed if they tried to force passage. The blockade caused chaos in Council logistics. Supply lines that had operated smoothly for centuries suddenly broke down. Ships ran out of fuel. Repair facilities lacked spare parts. The Council's military machine began to sputter. On Thalmec Secondary, a fortress world that had never fallen in 4,000 years of Thalmec history, Colonel Tai Yang led the ground invasion. His forces landed in drop pods, scattered across the planet's northern continent. The Thalmec defenders expected a conventional siege, with human forces trying to take key installations through superior firepower. Instead, Tai Yang employed tactics borrowed from Earth's ancient history. His soldiers avoided direct confrontation when possible, instead infiltrating supply lines, sabotaging communication networks, and turning the planet's own infrastructure against its defenders. They poisoned fuel supplies with chemicals that caused engines to fail gradually. They hacked into the planetary defense grid and fed false targeting data. When the Thalmec finally organized a proper response, Tai Yang revealed that half his force consisted of autonomous drones controlled by AI, while the real soldiers had already moved to new positions. The defenders found themselves fighting ghosts, wasting ammunition on targets that weren't human. The final assault came when human orbital forces destroyed the planetary shield generators. Without protection, the fortress world's military installations were exposed to bombardment. Tai Yang offered surrender terms: evacuate all military personnel, leave the installations intact, and the civilians would be unharmed. The Thalmec commander, a veteran of 300 battles, faced an impossible choice: die honorably or surrender the first Thalmec world ever lost. He chose surrender, and that decision sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The ancient, invincible Thalmec dominion had fallen to a species that had only reached space 50 years ago. Back on the Council station, panic spread through the chambers. Representatives demanded explanations, protection, reassurances that the Council could still defend them. The Chancellor tried to maintain order, but his authority was crumbling. Then reports came in from the front lines. Human forces had captured 3 star systems in 2 months. They held defensive positions that would take years to retake. Their stealth ships operated freely throughout Council space, gathering intelligence and conducting sabotage operations. The most disturbing reports came from interrogated human prisoners. When asked why they fought so fiercely, the answers were consistent and chilling. They weren't fighting for glory or conquest. They fought because the Council had threatened their families, their homes, their species' right to exist. They would rather die than live as subjects of an alien empire. One captured pilot, before she was exchanged in a prisoner swap, told her interrogators something that spread throughout the Council fleet. "You started this war thinking we were weak. You learned we're not. Now you're wondering if you can win. Let me save you time. You can't, because we'll never stop fighting. Even if you destroy Earth, humans will survive in the colonies. We'll fight you for generations. We'll make the galaxy too expensive for you to hold. So either kill us all or leave us alone. Those are your only options." Commander Deho received reports of the campaign's success in his command bunker. Casualty lists came with the victories. Thousands of humans had died to capture those 3 systems. But they had proven something vital. Humanity could not only defend itself but could conquer Council territory. Captain Sungmin's Silent Thunder continued operating behind enemy lines, now joined by 5 more stealth ships. They mapped Council defenses, identified key leaders, and prepared intelligence packets for the next wave of attacks. Dr. Hee-jin worked on even more devastating weapons in her laboratory, hoping they would never need to be used but preparing them nonetheless. She had opened a door to weapons that terrified her, but she couldn't close it now. Ambassador Jiwoo watched from the Council station as the empire that had ruled for centuries began to fracture. Minor species whispered about rebellion. The Galactic Council station entered full lockdown. Security forces tripled their patrols, scanning every visitor, monitoring every transmission. Intelligence reports suggested human infiltrators had penetrated the station's defenses, though no one could find evidence. The paranoia alone was enough to disrupt normal operations. Council members who had spent centuries debating in comfortable chambers now moved through corridors with armed escorts. In the central chamber, an emergency session convened in complete secrecy. Only the highest-ranking members attended, their faces displaying fear and anger in equal measure. The Valkyrian Chancellor looked diminished somehow, his confidence shattered by months of military failures. "We have lost 743 ships," he announced, his voice hollow. 12 systems are under human control or blockade. 3 major species have threatened to leave the Council, and we still have no effective counter to their weapons. A Thalmec elder spoke, its crystalline form dimmed with what might have been shame. "They captured our fortress world. In 4,000 years, Thalmec Secondary never fell. Now humans raise their flag above our oldest military academy. Then we use the planet killers," a gas-form delegate suggested desperately. "We have weapons that can shatter worlds. Destroy Earth and be done with this." The chamber fell silent at that suggestion. It was the ultimate option, the weapon of last resort. Several species had been completely exterminated by Council planet killer weapons over the centuries. But those had been truly alien threats, species so fundamentally different from Council members that no peace was possible. Humans were different. They spoke languages the Council could translate. They valued things the Council understood: family, home, freedom. Destroying Earth would make the Council into the monsters of every species' nightmares. More importantly, intelligence reports showed humans had established self-sustaining colonies in their outer system. Destroying Earth might not even end the war. "We have another problem," Intelligence Director Vortek reported. He activated displays showing 6 human stealth ships operating throughout Council space. "They know where all our major installations are located. They've mapped our defensive positions. If we attack Earth with planet killers, they could retaliate against our homeworlds before we could defend them." The Council members absorbed this information with growing horror. The war they thought would last weeks had turned into a stalemate that could destroy both sides. And somehow, impossibly, the humans seemed willing to accept mutual destruction rather than surrender. Outside the Council chamber, Captain Sungmin's stealth ship Silent Thunder drifted in the station's shadow, close enough to scan all communications but invisible to sensors. His crew had spent 3 months mapping the station's defenses, finding weaknesses and preparing for this moment. Signal from Earth, his communications officer reported. Operation Final Offer is go. Commander Daeho is inbound with the negotiation team. Sungmin smiled grimly. Good. Let's make sure they arrive safely. And let's make sure the Council knows we're here. He activated a single tight beam transmission aimed directly at the Council Chamber's communication hub. The message was simple. Coordinates showing exactly where 6 human stealth ships were positioned around the station, all within weapons range of critical systems. The message ended with 3 words, "We see you." Panic erupted in the Council Chamber as security officers burst in with reports of human ships surrounding the station. How had they gotten so close? How long had they been there? Every question revealed the depths of humanity's capabilities and the Council's vulnerabilities. Then Ambassador Jiwoo's voice came through every speaker in the chamber. Members of the Galactic Council, I request an audience immediately. The Chancellor wanted to refuse, but he knew his position was impossible. If he denied the request, the human ships might attack. If he accepted, he would be negotiating from a position of weakness. Either way, the Council's absolute authority was broken. Send her in, he said quietly. Ambassador Jiwoo entered the chamber alone and unarmed. She wore her simple gray diplomatic uniform, the same one she had worn months ago when the Council had issued their ultimatum. But everything else had changed. Then she had stood as a supplicant asking for mercy. Now she stood as a representative of a species that had fought the galaxy's mightiest empire to a standstill. Behind her, holographic displays activated without anyone commanding them. Human ships appeared on every screen, showing Fleet Admiral So-hyun's fleet in orbit around Centrum Prime, the neutral world that hosted the Council Station, 175 warships all aimed at the station itself. Honored representatives, Jiwoo began, her voice steady and clear. 3 months ago you demanded our surrender. You threatened our colonies. You invaded our home system. Today I'm here to offer you a choice. She transmitted a data packet to every council member simultaneously. Earth's terms appeared on their displays written in 47 languages. The Chancellor read them with growing disbelief. Earth demanded immediate cessation of all hostilities. Return of all human prisoners in occupied territories. Full recognition of human sovereignty, with zero interference in human affairs. Reparations for damages to Mars and Ganymede Station. A permanent seat on the Galactic Council with full voting rights equal to any major species. And most radically, a guarantee that no species would ever again face the ultimatum Earth had received. A restructuring of the Council from an empire into a true federation of equals. These demands are impossible, the Chancellor said, but his voice lacked conviction. Admiral So-hyun appeared via hologram, her scarred face showing no emotion. Then let me explain what happens if you refuse. In the past month, Earth has deployed 200 antimatter cascade devices in strategic locations throughout Council space. Our stealth ships have planted them near major shipyards, supply depots, and planetary defense installations. She highlighted locations on a galactic map, and the Council members watched in horror as red markers appeared near their most valuable assets. Some were near homeworlds. One was positioned near the Thalmec Primary, their species' birth planet. If you attack Earth, So-hyun continued calmly, we will detonate all devices simultaneously. Your military infrastructure will be destroyed. Your ability to project power across the galaxy will end. Some of your homeworlds may suffer catastrophic damage from the spatial distortions. We estimate Council casualties in the billions. You're bluffing, a delegate protested weakly. No species would be insane enough to— You still don't understand us, Commander Daeho interrupted, stepping into the hologram feed beside Admiral So-hyun. We're not bluffing. We're not insane. We're survivors. Our species spent 200,000 years climbing to the top of our planet's food chain. We survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and natural disasters that would have exterminated weaker species. We learned one fundamental truth. Sometimes survival means being willing to burn everything down rather than live as slaves. The chamber fell silent. Every council member understood the implication. Humans meant it. If forced to choose between extinction and slavery, they would choose mutual destruction. The species that had fought 1,000 civil wars among themselves would absolutely fight an external enemy to the death. Dr. Hee-jin appeared in the transmission, her calm scientific demeanor more terrifying than any military commander's threats. I can provide detailed specifications of the cascade devices if you wish. Your scientists can verify that the spatial distortions would be catastrophic, or you can accept that we have the capability and the will to use it. President Kim's face appeared, addressing the council directly. We didn't want this war. We came to you in peace asking for partnership. You demanded our submission instead. Now we're offering you one final chance at peace. But understand this clearly, we will never submit. We will never surrender. We will never give up our freedom, ever. The Chancellor looked around the chamber at representatives from species that had ruled for millennia. All looked back at him with the same expression: defeat. They had pushed humanity too far, underestimated them too badly, and now faced a choice between peace on human terms or mutual destruction. A vote was called. It should have taken hours with debates and procedural arguments. Instead, it took 17 minutes. Every species voted the same way. Except Earth's terms. The silence that followed was absolute. For the first time in 800 years, the Galactic Council had been forced to surrender. Not to superior technology or overwhelming numbers, but to the sheer determination of a species that refused to accept subjugation. Ambassador Jiwoo allowed herself a small smile. On behalf of humanity, I accept your acceptance. Detailed terms will be transmitted within the hour. Council forces have 48 hours to withdraw from all human territories. Any ship that fails to comply will be destroyed. She turned to leave, then paused. And one more thing. I'll be taking the Earth Council seat immediately. We have several proposals for restructuring the Council's governance. I suggest you review them carefully. 5 years later, the galaxy had changed. Earth had become a major power, though not through conquest. Human ships served as peacekeepers in disputed territories, their reputation for ferocity preventing wars through deterrence alone.